It's Holly Henry here with Speedway 360. I've got Jimmy Robinson here. He's an IMCA hobby stock driver, and he's going to be telling me all about that. Before we got started, I obviously know a lot about modifieds. I know a fair amount about sport mods. I know some about dwarf cars. I didn't know that much about IMCA hobby stocks. And I was reading the rules and all this. You guys really, you have a full cage, but there's not really a whole lot you guys can maneuver, or bar angles or ballast weight you can do. So tell me about that.
So we can't have any ballast in the car whatsoever. Some drivers will either move their gas tank. A lot of guys will have their gas tank all the way to the left side to try to get better weight distribution, or like what I do, I have a 22-gallon tank, so I could use a fuel level to try to change the rear percentage in the car. And then we could mess with air pressure, which basically other cars do. We run radial tires, so the air pressure sometimes doesn't really affect the car as much, but it does. And then springs, you could change your rear springs around it, try to change the rear percentage. But like I said, it's there's not much you could do, so it's really in the driver's hands.
Yeah, I actually find that fascinating, just because with our suspension, we can really play around. We were talking about you could put lead in certain spots to change the ballast. You can change your bar angles and all these different things. So it's really a driver has to really get in there and wheel it to make it happen. Not being able to adjust anything, I was like, whoa. I was here, speaking of driving and just like getting in it, I was here that night when you rolled a couple of times on the track, and I thought you
5 times, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, Jimmy, I was freaking out. So tell me, that was nuts. Tell me what that was like.
It happened really fast, so I don't remember a lot of it. I know I was in the lead. I was actually leading that race. I had about a half straightaway lead, and
you're killing it.
The axle broke. So the right rear axle broke at the flange, and the wheel came off. The only thing I heard going through the car, I was on the gas. Mm-hmm. The car was really going well that night, and I heard a screeching noise, and then the next thing I knew, I'm doing barrel rolls down the track. I do remember one point I was upside down, and it had like that slow motion part,
Yeah.
So that was nice. So I was upside down. I looked out the window, and I realized what was going on. Realized I was rolling, and then after that, it just kept hitting. But honestly, the car spent a lot of time in the air. So once we got it back home, the only thing that was really wrong with the car was the suspension. We, tore up the rear end a little bit, but the car structurally, the frame wasn't bent. It was just some cosmetic stuff. There's still some dents right here, but the car itself, was fine. We just had to replace all the front and rear suspension, got new axles, obviously, and the car is still fast. We were running up front last race, and
you're always a front runner.
We had some shock problems. I'm hoping that problem's solved, and so I want to win tonight.
Yeah, I want you to win tonight too. And like you said, you were in the air pretty much the whole time. I didn't count. You were literally airborne for. It felt like probably you felt like a lifetime, but to me, I was like, oh man, she's just like floating there. It was crazy. It's one of the craziest races I've seen, and I've got to say, one of the reasons, for those that you don't know, I pick my drivers, and one of the reasons I picked you is your positive attitude. Every time you come to the track, and even after that experience, you're so positive about everything. You always come here, you're always ready to race, you're always ready to give it your all, and I got to say, I love that about you. So how do you keep that? You just keep that momentum, and I'm sure it helps you when you're driving. But tell me about that. You're always so positive, and you're a joy to have at the track. We love having you here.
I absolutely love racing. I'm not a lifetime racer. I started racing 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. I spent 20 years in the Navy, and when I got out, I was working a job, and I had some health issues, and kind of realized, life is short. And this is something I wanted to do since I was a little kid. I had cousins that raced. Used to watch my cousin Chris race at Saga Speedway in Southern California. Yeah. And so it was always, I was always loved it. And so I decided, I said, you know what, I'm going to race. And I had a Harley Davidson Fat Boy, and I traded that for this car. And because I don't have a lot of money, so I'm trading things to get my cars. And So I traded the Fat Boy for this car, and me and my crew chief, Gene Plymouth, if I didn't have him, I would never been successful it has in a short period of time, and been able to do any of this really. But we worked on the car, we got it right, and I won 2 championships. So.
Yeah, I'm really glad you traded in that bike.
I don't want to stop anytime soon either.
I'm not sad for the bike. Like I said, we're always so happy to have you here, and you've done so well in such a short period of time. And also, thank you for your service to the country. That's amazing and impressive. You mentioned your crew chief. Who else? There's some good engines in the background. You mentioned your crew chief. Who else has just been there and really helped you out and get this thing rolling?
Gene, and then the other racers here. So the hobby, really the Cocopah racing community, it didn't really matter what class you guys are running. Yeah. They come together, and so I've had a couple, I had the rollover. I had instantaneously, that next day I had things on Facebook and text messages asking what I needed. Yeah, so Gene is the main guy for me, but really everybody, Jason, everybody, they were all willing to help, and so I think it's the race community, but Gene really is, it's me and him really, and I have other guys that help out, but as far as Yuma Auto and Transmission and places like that, but yeah, it's really me and him.
That's cool. You've got your right hand, and I know I'm Royce's right hand, and you learn a lot about each other's personalities on a good night and a bad night, and you learn to work it out, and win and lose, and you're in it together, and that's what it's all about, and the racing family is what it's all about.
I love it. I've never seen anything like this before. The closest relation I would have to is the military. Everyone's looking after everybody, and everyone has your own back, and you're watching the guy to your right and the guy to your left. And it's a lot like that here. You go on the track and you're competitive, and you want to beat the guy in front of you. You want to keep the guys behind you, and but when it's all said and done at the end of the night, it's you guys are popping beers and whatever. So it's good. I love it. I absolutely love it. It reminds me a lot of the military, and it's something you don't find around today. In the world today is that kind of camaraderie and friendship and community. So. I love it.
I agree with you, and I think that probably is a lot of the reason you are so positive, and it is such a pleasure to have you at the track, because we feel like family. Whenever we see each other, we're like, hey, yeah, what's up?
Talking about racing, I spent 30 minutes talking to someone at Fry's. My wife's like, hey, what are you doing?
I mean, it's great, but the chicken's getting hot.
Yeah, exactly.
This thing in the freezer, man.
Exactly, right. Yeah.
I feel the same way, and I'm like, yeah, okay. We change your valve, you need a little more rebound, a little less compression on that, but the milk and the eggs are still in the cart. It's been an honor and a pleasure talking to Jimmy Robinson. He's one of my favorite guys at the track. We always love having him here. It's his positive attitude. It's his get in there and do what you got to do to win it, and the community and everything that we just talked about. So thanks so much for your time. I'm Holly Henry with Speedway 360. You can catch us on Cocopah TV on YouTube. You can also catch us on the Cocopah Speedway page on Facebook. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in Victory Lane.
All right. Thank you.